Some ghosts don't stay buried. Michael Stewart ruled the city with iron fists and colder blood. The name alone made men tremble. Empire builders bowed. Senators whispered. Even death seemed to negotiate with him first. But on one October night, at a glittering charity auction, where the city's elite gathered to wash their sins in champagne, Michael made a mistake. He bid $1 million on a mystery date. A woman behind a veil. No name, no face. Just a lot of numbers and a promise of one evening. His men thought he'd lost his mind. His rivals smelled weakness. But Michael couldn't explain the pull. The gravity that made his hand rise again and again until the auctioneer's gavel fell. Sold! To Mr. Stewart. And when she stepped forward, when the spotlight caught the curve of her neck, the tilt of her head, the way her fingers touched the pearl at her throat, time shattered. Because the woman behind the veil, the one he'd just bought for a king's ransom, was Connie Moultrie, his ex-wife. The woman who disappeared 5 years ago. The woman he'd spent a fortune trying to forget. The woman who should have been dead. As we continue, click subscribe. Like this video and tell me in the comment where you are watching from. Your support helps us bring more thrilling stories, and trust me, what will happen next will leave you breathless. Hit that notification bell. This story is about to explode. Now let's continue in the story. When the past walks back into your life, it doesn't knock. It kicks the door down. The Grand Bellamy Hotel shimmered like a crown jewel that October evening. Crystal chandeliers dripped light onto marble floors, where the city's wealthiest circulated like sharks in designer suits. This wasn't charity. This was theater. The elite came to be seen, to flex wealth, to pretend their money could wash away the blood it was built on. Michael Stewart stood near the bar, a tumbler of scotch untouched in his hand. At 38, he wore power like a second skin, tailored Tom Ford tuxedo, platinum cufflinks, hair swept back with just enough gray at the temples to suggest wisdom earned through violence. His presence carved space around him. People gravitated close enough to acknowledge him, never close enough to breathe the same air. "You're brooding again, boss," Vinny muttered beside him, scanning the crowd with eyes that missed nothing. "Bad for the image." "I'm thinking," Michael corrected. "Same thing with you." Elena appeared at his elbow, all curves and crimson lips, diamonds glittering at her throat like promises. "The auction's starting, darling. Shall we?" Michael didn't call her darling back. He never did. Elena Vasquez was beautiful, useful, and utterly forgettable, which made her perfect for nights like this. Arm candy with ambition but no substance. She knew it. He knew it. The arrangement worked. They moved toward the auction floor where gold-rimmed chairs faced a stage draped in black velvet. The auctioneer, a silver-haired man named Pemberton, with a voice like honey over gravel, took the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our annual Midnight Rose Gala. Tonight, your generosity funds arts programs for underprivileged youth across the city." Michael tuned out the speech. He'd donated $500,000 before walking through the doors. His conscience, what little remained, was clear for the evening. Lots came and went. A weekend in Tuscany. A vintage Ferrari. A Picasso sketch. Hands rose, numbers climbed. Pemberton's gavel fell with theatrical flourish. Michael watched with detached interest until, "And now, ladies and gentlemen, our final lot of the evening." Pemberton paused, letting anticipation build. "Lot number 12. Something different. The lights dimmed. A spotlight hit the stage. A mystery date, Pemberton continued, voice dropping to a conspiratorial purr. One evening with a woman of extraordinary grace. Dinner conversation. Perhaps more. But there's a catch. You won't know who she is until the bid is won. No name, no photograph. Only this. A figure emerged from the wings. The room inhaled collectively. She wore black, a gown that seemed liquid in the spotlight, moving like midnight itself. A veil obscured her face, delicate lace that teased more than it hid. Pearls glowed at her throat and wrists. Her posture was regal, untouchable. She didn't move like someone being auctioned. She moved like someone who owned the stage. Michael felt something crack in his chest. "What the hell?" Vinny breathed beside him. "Bidding starts at $50,000, Pemberton announced. Hands rose immediately. The thrill of the unknown. The mystery. Rich men loved mysteries they could purchase. 75,000! 100! Michael's hand lifted before his brain caught up. 150,000! Pemberton called, pointing at him. Elena gripped his arm. "Michael, what are you—" 200,000. Another bidder. Michael raised his hand again. No hesitation, no logic. Just instinct screaming in his veins. 300,000 to Mr. Stewart. Vinny leaned in. "Boss, you don't even know who—" "I know," Michael interrupted, eyes locked on the stage. On the way, her hand rested at her side. The way her head tilted slightly left when she listened. Details he hadn't thought about in 5 years suddenly slamming back with brutal clarity. It couldn't be. 500,000! A voice from the back. Michael didn't turn. $1 million. The room exploded in gasps. Pemberton's eyes widened. Even the woman on stage seemed to still. $1 million from Mr. Stewart. Do I hear? 2 million, Michael said quietly. Loud enough to carry. Final enough to end it. Silence. Pemberton waited. 10 seconds. 20. The gavel rose. Sold to Mr. Michael Stewart for $2 million. Applause erupted. Michael didn't hear it. He was already moving toward the stage, Vinny scrambling behind him, Elena's protests fading into white noise. The woman waited, veiled and still. Up close, he could see the rise and fall of her breathing, the slight tremble in her fingers. Pemberton appeared, grinning. Mr. Stewart, congratulations. Your mystery date awaits. The car is ready whenever— Remove the veil, Michael said. Not to Pemberton. To her. She didn't move. Now, he added, softer. Dangerous. Her hand lifted. Delicate fingers found the edge of lace. The room held its breath as she pulled the veil back, revealing Connie Moultrie, his ex-wife. Standing 2 feet away with eyes like green glass and a smile that could start wars. Hello, Michael, she said, voice smooth as aged whiskey. Did you miss me? The world tilted. Vinny swore viciously. Elena shrieked. Cameras flashed. Somewhere, Detective Holt, who had been watching from the balcony, reached for his phone. But Michael couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't do anything except stare at the ghost who'd haunted him for 5 years, now flesh and blood, and standing in a spotlight like she'd never left. How was she alive? Where had she been? And why? Had she come back now? Some reunions are soft. This one had teeth. The private room at the Bellamy was designed for discretion. Soundproofed walls, locked doors, no windows. Michael had used it before for negotiations that required privacy. Tonight, it felt like a cage. Connie sat on the velvet sofa, legs crossed, posture relaxed. She'd removed her heels. The pearls still glowed at her throat. She looked at Michael like they were old friends catching up, not like a woman who'd disappeared without a trace 5 years ago, leaving him to wonder if she was dead in a ditch or living in paradise laughing at his pain. Michael stood across the room, hands in his pockets to keep them from shaking. From reaching for her throat, from reaching for her, Vinny paced by the door like a caged wolf. This is insane. She's been gone, presumed dead, and she just shows up at a charity auction? I wasn't dead, Connie said mildly. I was in Paris. Paris? Vinny exploded. Then Lisbon, then Prague, traveled a bit. Her eyes never left Michael. Missed anything important? Michael's jaw worked. Words tangled in his throat. Rage, relief, confusion, something darker he refused to name. 5 years, he finally said, voice like gravel. Not a word. Not a letter. You vanished the night we buried my father. I searched for you, tore the city apart, called in every favor, burned through half my resources trying to find you. And you were in Paris? It's a lovely city, Connie replied. You should visit sometime. Enough! Michael's roar shook the crystal on the sideboard. He crossed the distance between them in 3 strides, looming over her. I mourned you. Do you understand that? I thought you were dead. I thought someone took you, killed you, dumped you somewhere I'd never find. For the first time, something flickered in Connie's eyes. Pain, regret. But it vanished quickly, replaced by that maddening calm. And yet, she said softly, you moved on. I saw Elena tonight. Pretty girl, younger than me. Does she know you still keep our wedding photo in your office desk? Bottom drawer, behind the gun? Michael froze. How do you? I have my sources. That's not an answer. Neither is I mourned you when you're sleeping with someone else. Connie stood, bringing them face to face. She was shorter without heels, but she'd never needed height to command a room. Don't play the wounded husband, Michael. We both know what our marriage was. What was it? Michael's laugh was bitter. Enlighten me, Connie, because from where I stood, it was real. I loved you. I gave you everything. You gave me a cage made of gold, she shot back. And there was the fire he remembered. You gave me bodyguards and curfews, and a life where I couldn't breathe without your permission, where every friend was vetted, every phone call monitored, every choice filtered through your paranoia. I was protecting you. From what? Your enemies? Or from leaving? The question hit like a bullet. Michael stepped back, hand dragging through his hair. The room felt smaller, hotter. Vinny cleared his throat. Boss, we need to figure out what she wants, why she's here. This could be… A trap? Connie supplied. An ambush? A play against Michael's empire? She turned to Vinny with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Hello, Vinny. Still paranoid, I see. Some things never change. Some ghosts should stay buried, Vinny growled. Noted. Connie looked back at Michael. I'm here because I was invited. By who? The auction. It was arranged. Someone wanted us in the same room. Michael's blood chilled. Explain. 3 weeks ago, I received a letter. No return address. Inside was an invitation to participate in the Midnight Rose Gala as Lot 12. Anonymous, mysterious, and a promise. If I agreed, I'd get something I've been searching for. Which is? Connie's smile turned sad. Answers, Michael. Same thing you want. Answers to what? She moved to the window, soundproof glass overlooking the city lights. Michael's city. His kingdom. Built on blood and secrets and compromises she'd once begged him to abandon. "Why did your father die?" Connie asked quietly. The room temperature dropped. "Heart attack," Michael said automatically. "You know this." "I know what you were told." "Connie, he was murdered, Michael." She turned, and her eyes held something terrible. "And I know who did it. That's why I left. That's why I ran. Because if I stayed," her voice cracked, "I would have been next." Silence. Then Vinny. "That's impossible. We had doctors, autopsy. Everything pointed to—" "Everything was designed to point that way," Connie interrupted. "Your father was poisoned. Slowly. Over months. And the person who did it?" She looked directly at Michael. "Is still in your inner circle. Still by your side. Still waiting to finish what they started." Michael felt the world tilt. "You're lying." "Am I? Then explain this." Connie reached into her clutch. Vinny's hand went to his gun, but she moved slowly, deliberately, and pulled out a photograph. Old, faded. She held it out. Michael took it. The image showed his father, Marco Stewart, sitting in a restaurant booth. Across from him sat a man Michael didn't recognize. But the date stamp in the corner, 3 days before his father's heart attack. "Who is this?" Michael demanded. His name was Antonio Ricci. He worked for the Moretti family, your rivals, and 2 days after your father died, Antonio disappeared, found in the harbor a week later. Someone made sure he couldn't talk. Connie stepped closer. But before he died, he told someone what he'd done. He confessed. Confessed to who? To Father Dominic. Michael's heart stopped. Father Dominic Rossi, his confessor. The priest who'd guided him since childhood. The man he trusted above almost everyone. "You're saying Dominic knew my father was murdered and said nothing?" "I'm saying Dominic is protecting someone. And that someone is the real killer." Connie's hand found Michael's arm. The first time she'd touched him in 5 years. Her fingers were warm, real. "That's why I ran, Michael. I discovered this the night of the funeral. I found Antonio's confession. And I realized, if I stayed, if I told you then, you'd start a war. You'd tear the city apart. And they'd kill you too." Michael pulled away. "So you just left, without telling me? Without trusting me to handle it?" "I trusted you to survive," Connie whispered. "That's all that mattered." But who was the killer? And why had Father Dominic kept silent all these years? And most importantly, was Connie telling the truth? Or was this the setup Vinny feared? Faith is believing in what you can't see. Betrayal is discovering you were blind all along. Senma. Catherine's church sat in the old district like a monument to fading faith. Stone walls, stained glass that filtered light into jeweled colors. Pews worn smooth by generations of sinners seeking absolution. Michael had been coming here since he was 8 years old. First with his mother, then alone, then with blood on his hands. Father Dominic always welcomed him. It was 3 in the morning when Michael's car pulled up to the church. The city slept, or pretended to. Connie sat beside him in the back seat, changed from her gown into jeans and a sweater she'd somehow procured. She looked younger this way, more like the woman he'd married, less like the ghost haunting his present. Vinny was in the front seat, gun loaded, paranoia at maximum. "This is a bad idea, boss. If she's playing you, then I'll know soon enough, Michael said, stepping out. The church door was unlocked. It always was. Father Dominic believed sanctuary should never be barred. Inside, candles flickered in red glass. The smell of incense lingered, and there, kneeling before the altar in a threadbare cassock, was the priest. Father Dominic Rossi was 67, but looked older. White hair, stooped shoulders, hands that trembled when he lifted the communion chalice. He'd baptized Michael, married him, presided over his father's funeral. He was family in every way that mattered, except blood. "Michael," the priest said without turning, "I knew you'd come." "Then you know why." Father Dominic stood slowly, joints creaking. When he turned, his face was lined with exhaustion. Or guilt. "I've been waiting 5 years for this conversation." Connie stepped forward. "Father." The priest's eyes widened. "Constance." "Dear God, you're alive." "Surprise," she said flatly. "Does this mean—" Father Dominic looked at Michael. "She told you? About Antonio Ricci? About my father being murdered? About you knowing and saying nothing?" Michael's voice was dangerously soft. "Yeah, Father, she told me. Now I want to hear it from you." The priest sighed deeply and sank into a front pew. Michael and Connie joined him, Vinny hovering near the door like a gargoyle. For a long moment, only the candles spoke, flames whispering against wax. "Antonio Ricci came to me 7 years ago," Father Dominic began. "He was dying, liver cancer, wanted absolution before the end. In confession, he told me many things, terrible things, murders, extortion, sins that would haunt any man. And then," his voice dropped. "He told me about the contract." "What contract?" Michael demanded. "On your father. The Moretti family wanted Marco Stewart dead. They'd been losing ground to your empire for years, but your father was too careful, too protected, so they went slow. Antonio was the one who administered the poison, small doses in Marco's wine, his cigars. Over 6 months it accumulated. By the time the heart attack came, it looked natural." Michael's hands clenched into fists. "And you kept this secret?" "Antonio died 2 weeks after confession. There was no proof, no evidence, and I am bound by the seal of confession. Even if I wanted to tell you, I couldn't. Not without violating sacred vows." "Sacred?" Michael laughed bitterly. "My father was murdered, and you hid behind vows?" "I prayed on it every day." Father Dominic's voice cracked. "I asked God what to do. I searched for a way to give you the truth without breaking my oath. But there was none. And then Constance found Antonio's written confession in his effects after he died. She came to me, asking if it was true. And I—" He looked at Connie. "I told her to run." Connie's jaw tightened. "You said if I told Michael the Morettis would move against him, that he'd start a war he couldn't win, that I'd watch him die too." "I was trying to protect you both," the priest insisted. "You should have trusted me," Michael said coldly. "I would have handled it." "How? By storming Moretti's compound? By killing everyone until someone confessed? You would have died, Michael. They had the city council, the police, the judges. You were powerful, but they were embedded." Father Dominic's eyes pleaded. "I chose the lesser evil." "Lesser?" Michael stood. "My father died believing his heart failed him. I spent 5 years thinking Connie abandoned me. And you let me suffer because you couldn't break a technicality?" "It's not technical," Father Dominic rose, voice gaining strength. The seal of confession is sacred. If I had broken it, who killed my father? Michael's roar echoed off stone walls. Not Antonio. He was a tool. Someone in the Moretti family ordered the hit. Who? Father Dominic went pale. Tell me, Michael said quietly. Deadly. I don't know. Antonio never said. He only took orders, never knew the source. Convenient. It's the truth. Connie stood, placing herself between them. Michael, he's telling the truth. I've spent 5 years digging. The Morettis covered their tracks perfectly. Antonio's death was ruled accidental. His records burned. Everyone who might have known is dead or disappeared. Then we go to the source, Michael said. We go to Dante Moretti and make him talk. Vinny snorted from the doorway. Dante's been dead for 3 years, boss. Heart attack. Ironic. Michael froze. When? 3 years ago, this November. Big funeral. Remember? You sent flowers. Who runs the Moretti operations now? His daughter, Bianca Moretti. She's... Vinny stopped. Oh, hell. Connie nodded grimly. Now you see. Bianca Moretti. The woman who'd brokered peace between the families 2 years ago. The woman Michael had done business with. Trusted. The woman who'd sat across from him at restaurants and smiled while discussing territory divisions. The woman who might have orchestrated everything. But why reveal herself now? Why bring Connie back? What game was Bianca playing, and how deep did her revenge go? Sometimes the hunter becomes the hunted without realizing the forest changed. Bianca Moretti's estate sat on 20 acres north of the city. White stone, manicured gardens, a fountain that cost more than most people's houses. It screamed old money, old power, old grudges dressed in new suits. Michael had been here twice before. Business meetings, negotiations over shipping routes, and protection payments. Both times, Bianca had been gracious, charming, absolutely lethal beneath the smile. Now he was coming uninvited at dawn with questions that might get him killed. This is insane, Vinny muttered for the 15th time, checking his gun. We're walking into the lion's den because of a theory. It's not a theory, Connie said from the back seat. She'd insisted on coming. Michael had refused. She'd come anyway. Bianca orchestrated the auction. I traced the invitation back to a shell company she controls. And that proves what? That she wanted a reunion? Maybe she's sentimental. Bianca Moretti doesn't do sentiment, Michael said, eyes on the approaching gates. She does strategy. The gates opened before they arrived. Surveillance cameras had already spotted them. No point in subtlety. They drove up the winding drive, gravel crunching, dawn light painting everything gold. Too beautiful for bloodshed. But then, the worst things often were. Bianca waited on the front steps, like a queen receiving subjects. At 35, she wore power like her late father had, effortlessly. Black pantsuit, heels that could double as weapons, dark hair pulled into a severe bun. Her smile was warm, her eyes were glacial. Michael, how wonderful! And with guests, how unexpected. Her gaze landed on Connie. Constance Stewart, I heard you were dead. Disappointed? Connie asked. Intrigued. Please, come in. Breakfast is ready, and I suspect we have much to discuss. They followed her inside. Marble floors, art worth millions, guards posted at every corner trying to look like staff. Bianca led them to a sunroom overlooking gardens, where a table was set with pastries, coffee, fresh fruit, as if they were friends dropping by. Sit, Bianca offered. Nobody did. "Cut the performance," Michael said. "You brought Connie back. You arranged the auction. Why?" Bianca poured coffee like she hadn't heard. "Do you know what I admired most about your father, Michael? His ability to play the long game. Most men in our business think in quarters, maybe years. Marco thought in decades. He built something that would outlast him." She took a delicate sip. "I'm trying to do the same." "By killing him?" Connie snapped. "By correcting mistakes," Bianca replied calmly. "My father was impulsive, short-sighted. He saw Marco as a rival to be eliminated rather than a partner to cultivate. The poisoning was his idea, executed poorly, and it accomplished nothing except making you, Michael, more dangerous." She looked at him with something like respect. "You became everything your father was, but colder, smarter, more willing to do what needed to be done." "Flattery won't save you," Michael said. "I'm not trying to be saved. I'm trying to be honest." Bianca set down her cup. "I didn't kill your father, but I did cover for mine when he did. I was 26, newly in the business and terrified. My father told me it was necessary, that Marco was planning to move against us, that it was survival. So I helped hide the evidence, paid off doctors, silenced witnesses, made it look natural." Her voice softened. "I've regretted it every day since." "Regret doesn't resurrect the dead," Michael said coldly. "No, but it can motivate the living." Bianca stood, moving to the window. 5 years ago, Constance discovered the truth. She came to me first. Did you know that?" Michael's head snapped to Connie. "What?" Connie's face was unreadable. "I needed to know who ordered the hit." "And I told her," Bianca continued. "Not out of guilt, out of strategy. Because I knew if you, Michael, learned your father was murdered, you'd burn the city down hunting his killer. You'd expose us both. Start a war that would destroy everything we'd built. So I made Constance a deal." "What deal?" Michael's voice was dangerous. Bianca turned. "I told her I'd keep her safe, hidden, protected, funded, if she disappeared. Gave you time to grieve. Let tensions cool. And I promised that one day, when the time was right, I'd bring her back and tell you the truth myself." "Why?" Michael demanded. "Why not just kill her?" "Because I'm not my father." Bianca's composure cracked. "Because I'm tired of cycles of revenge. Because maybe there's a way to run this world without drowning in blood." She took a breath, regaining control. "I brought Constance back because you deserve the truth, and because I'm proposing something radical, an alliance." Vinny laughed harshly. "An alliance? After everything?" "My father killed yours," Bianca said to Michael. "I covered it up. These are facts. And in our world, facts demand blood. You could kill me right now, storm this house, take your vengeance." She spread her hands. "Or we could choose differently. End the cycle. Combine our operations. Become partners instead of predators." Michael's mind raced. It was insane. Brilliant. Possibly a trap. "And if I refuse? Then we go to war, and Detroit burns, and we both lose." Bianca's eyes held his. "Your choice, Michael." Silence stretched. Connie watched him. Vinny waited for orders. Bianca stood utterly still, her life balanced on his next words. Then Michael's phone rang. He glanced at the screen. Unknown number. He answered anyway. "What?" "Mr. Stewart. A male voice, distorted, terrified. They said to tell you. They have her. Have who? Your daughter. They have your daughter. The world stopped. Michael's voice went dead. I don't have a daughter. You do now, the voice whispered, and if you want her back alive, you'll do exactly what we say. The line went dead. Michael lowered the phone slowly, looked at Connie, saw the truth in her stricken face before she said a word. How old? He asked quietly. Connie's voice broke. 4. A daughter. Michael had a daughter he'd never known about, and now someone had taken her. But who? And how did they know when Michael himself didn't? The trap had just snapped shut, not around Bianca, but around them all. Every parent prays they'll never have to choose. Every parent is lying. The drive back to the city was silent except for Connie's ragged breathing. She sat clutching her phone, knuckles white, eyes distant. Michael stared straight ahead, thoughts moving too fast to catch. Vinny drove with leaded foot urgency, weaving through traffic, running lights. A daughter. Michael had a daughter, 4 years old, and someone had her. Talk, Michael finally said, voice like gravel. Now, Connie swallowed. Her name is Isabella. Bella. She's 4 and 3 months, born 6 months after I left. I found out I was pregnant a week before your father's funeral. I was going to tell you that night, but then I found Antonio's confession and… Her voice cracked. I couldn't stay. Couldn't risk her growing up in this world. Couldn't risk her being used as leverage. So you kept her from me? Michael's tone was dangerously calm. For 4 years? To keep her alive, Connie snapped, rounding on him. You think I wanted to raise her alone? You think I enjoyed watching her first steps, her first words, knowing her father didn't even know she existed? I hated it. But it was better than the alternative. Which was what? Her being exactly where she is now, in enemy hands. The car swerved as Vinny cursed. Where is she? Where have you been keeping her? Safe house. Outside the city. Remote. Only I knew the location. I went there twice a month. Had a woman staying with her full-time. Marie, former French intelligence, completely vetted. Connie's voice shook. When I came back for the auction, Bella stayed with Marie. No one should have known. But someone did, Michael said coldly. Someone found her. Which means someone's been watching you, following you. He looked at her. Or you told someone. I would never. Then how? Michael's shout filled the car. How did they find my daughter? I don't know. Connie was crying now, tears streaming. I was careful. I used burner phones, encrypted everything, and changed routes. No one should have… She stopped. Unless what? The DNA test. Michael went still. What DNA test? 3 months ago, Bella got sick. Really sick. Fever, rash, we couldn't figure out what it was. Marie took her to a hospital under a false name, but they needed medical history. So Connie closed her eyes. I sent a sample to a private lab for genetic screening to check for hereditary conditions. Your family has heart issues. I needed to know if… You entered her DNA into a database, Vinny said flatly. That's how they found her. Someone's monitoring genetic databases, looking for Stewart markers. Who would… Connie started, then stopped. They all knew. Someone who wanted leverage on Michael. Someone who'd been planning this for months. Someone with resources to monitor databases, track shipments, orchestrate an elaborate auction reunion just to get Michael and Connie in the same city at the same time so they'd be distracted when the real play happened. Michael's phone rang again. Same distorted voice. "Did she tell you? About Isabella? Pretty name. She looks like you, Mr. Stewart. Same eyes. She's scared right now, but we're keeping her comfortable. For now." "Who are you?" Michael's voice was ice. "What do you want?" "Justice. Your father took something from me. Now I'm taking something from you. But unlike him, I'm giving you a choice." Papers shuffled in the background. "Tomorrow night. Pier 17, 8 p.m. Come alone. Bring Constance. And bring the evidence she's been hiding." "What evidence?" "The confession. Antonio Ricci's written confession detailing who paid him to kill Marco Stewart. Constance has it. She's been holding it as insurance. Now it's ransom." The voice hardened. "You give me the confession, destroy the only proof that links my family to your father's death, and I give you Isabella. Alive, unharmed, a clean trade." "Your family?" Michael's mind raced through possibilities. "Who? Tomorrow, 8 p.m. No weapons, no backup. Just you, Constance, and the confession. Or Isabella dies, and you spend the rest of your life wondering what her laugh sounded like." The line died. Michael lowered the phone, looked at Connie. "The confession. Where is it?" "Safe deposit box. Bank of Continental. Downtown." "Get it. Michael, get it!" He was out of the car before Vinny fully stopped, striding toward his building with Connie scrambling to follow. "Vinny, I need full surveillance on Pier 17. Thermal imaging, satellite feeds, everything. I want to know how many shooters they'll have." "Boss, you can't actually be considering—" "I'm getting my daughter back," Michael said flatly. "Whatever it takes." They took the private elevator to his penthouse. Michael went straight to the bar, poured scotch he didn't drink. Connie stood in the doorway, looking small and broken. Nothing like the woman who'd stood on an auction stage in pearls and confidence. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry. I thought I was protecting her. I thought—" "You thought wrong," Michael said, not turning. "You should have told me. From the beginning. I would have protected you both. You would have tried, and we'd all be dead. Maybe, maybe not. We'll never know now." He finally looked at her. "But what I do know is this. Whoever has Isabella knows you have the confession. Which means they've been watching you longer than we thought. Which means you were compromised before you ever came back." He set down the glass. "You led them to her." The words hit like bullets. Connie staggered. "No, no, I would never. Not intentionally. But they used you, played you, and now my daughter, our daughter, is paying the price." Michael's voice cracked. "Tell me about her, please." Connie sank onto the couch, pulling out her phone with shaking hands. She scrolled, found photos, held it out. A little girl with dark curls and green eyes, his eyes, smiling at the camera, building sandcastles. Covered in birthday cake, asleep with a stuffed lion. Michael took the phone, stared at the face of a child he'd never met. His daughter. 4 years of birthdays he'd missed. 4 years of bedtime stories he'd never told. 4 years of being a father stolen from him. And now she was terrified. Alone. Waiting for parents she'd probably been told would never come. "What is her favorite color?" he asked quietly. "Purple, like lavender. She calls it princess purple. Favorite food? Mac and cheese with dinosaur shapes. She likes to make them fight before she eats them." "Does she?" Michael's voice broke. "Does she know about me?" Connie's tears returned. "I told her you were a soldier, fighting far away, that you loved her but couldn't come home yet. I didn't want her to hate you. I wanted her to know she was loved. Even if I never knew she existed." Michael handed back the phone, looked out at the city he ruled, the empire he'd built, the power that meant nothing if he couldn't save one small girl. The confession. It's the only proof linking the Morettis to my father's death. Yes. And without it, I have nothing. No leverage, no justice, no way to prove what they did. Yes. Michael turned, looked at Connie with eyes that had seen too much. Then there's no choice. We give them the confession. We get Bella back. And we let my father's murderers walk free. Michael, I'm choosing our daughter over my revenge, he said simply. What kind of father would I be if I didn't? But in the silence that followed, neither of them said what they were both thinking. What if the kidnappers never intended to return Isabella at all? What if this was just a way to get the confession and eliminate witnesses? What if the only way to save their daughter was to sacrifice something far worse than revenge? What if they had to sacrifice each other? Trust is gambling your life on a promise. Betrayal is learning the house always wins. Pier 17, at night, was a graveyard of shipping containers and broken dreams. The docks stretched like metal bones against the water, cranes towering overhead like mechanical vultures. Fog rolled in from the harbor, thick and cold, turning streetlights into blurred halos. Perfect for an ambush. Perfect for making people disappear. Michael and Connie arrived 10 minutes early. No backup, at least none visible. Vinny and his team were positioned 3 blocks out with long-range rifles and thermal scopes, ready to move at Michael's signal. But they'd stay hidden. The kidnappers had been clear. Come alone, or Isabella dies. Connie clutched the manila envelope containing Antonio's confession. Her hands trembled. Michael noticed, but said nothing. He'd said everything that needed saying back at the penthouse. Final instructions, contingencies, the location of his will. Just in case. There, Connie whispered, pointing. At the end of Pier 17, illuminated by a single overhead light, stood a figure in black. Tall, broad-shouldered, face obscured by shadow. Beside them, a smaller shape. A child. Isabella. Even from a distance, Michael recognized her from the photos. Dark curls whipping in the wind. Small frame wrapped in a pink jacket too big for her. She wasn't crying. She stood very still, very quiet. Too quiet for a 4-year-old. They drugged her, Connie hissed. So when you... Starting forward, Michael caught her arm. We follow the plan. We get her back first. They walked the length of the pier, footsteps echoing on concrete. The figure remained motionless. As they drew closer, features emerged from shadow, and Michael's blood turned to ice. It was Bianca Moretti. Surprise, she said softly, one hand resting on Isabella's shoulder. Did you really think I invited you to my home to make peace? I'm my father's daughter, Michael. I just play a longer game. You, Connie breathed. You orchestrated everything. Of course. The auction was just theater, a way to get you both back in the city, distracted by romance and revelation while I located your daughter. The genetics database was almost too easy. People trust medical records. Bianca smiled. And then that touching scene at my house this morning, you falling for my alliance pitch while my people were already grabbing Isabella from her safe house. Marie put up a fight, by the way. She didn't survive it. Michael's jaw clenched. Marie's dead? Very. And if you want Isabella to live, you'll hand over the confession. Now. Let her go first, Michael said. Not how this works. Bianca's hand tightened on Isabella's shoulder. The girl whimpered, a sound that made Michael's vision blur red. Confession first. Then you get the child. Then I let you both walk away. And we forget this unpleasantness ever happened. You're lying, Connie said. You'll kill us all. Perhaps. But what choice do you have? Bianca's smile turned pitying. You're here, unarmed, outnumbered, with everything you love at stake. You play by my rules. Or Isabella takes a very long swim in very cold water. Michael looked at his daughter, really looked. She was so small, so fragile. 4 years old, with his eyes and Connie's face, wearing a jacket that didn't fit because she'd been grabbed in a hurry. She'd never asked to be part of this world, never asked for a father who made enemies out of ambition and a mother who ran from the consequences. She was innocent, and Michael had spent his life destroying innocence. The confession, Bianca prompted. I'm not a patient woman. Connie looked at Michael. He nodded. She stepped forward, holding out the envelope. Bianca reached for it, and Michael lunged. Not at Bianca, at Isabella. He grabbed his daughter, yanked her backward, spun to shield her with his body as gunfire erupted. Bianca's guards, 4 of them, hidden behind containers, opened fire. Michael felt impact, heat, pain blooming in his shoulder, his side. But he kept moving, kept Isabella pressed against him as Connie dove for cover behind a pallet. Vinny's team returned fire from their positions. Muzzle flashes lit the fog. Someone screamed. A guard went down. Then another, but Bianca was already running, the envelope in her hand, guards covering her retreat as she disappeared into the maze of containers. Michael hit the ground hard, Isabella tucked against his chest. She was crying now, full, terrified sobs. He could feel her heart hammering against his ribs, could feel his own blood soaking into her jacket. You're okay, he whispered, checking her for injuries. You're okay, baby. I've got you. Daddy's got you. Connie was beside them, hands on Isabella's face. Bella! Oh my God! Bella, are you hurt? Mama? Isabella's voice was small, confused. Mama, I'm scared. I know, baby. I know. We're going home. Vinny appeared, rifle in hand. Boss, you're hit. I'm fine, Michael lied, struggling to stand. The pier was spinning. He'd been shot twice, maybe 3 times, hard to tell with adrenaline screaming through his system. Bianca? Gone. Slipped through the perimeter. She's got the confession. Michael looked at Connie, saw the devastation in her eyes. 5 years of hiding. 5 years of insurance. And now the only evidence proving who killed his father was in enemy hands. At least we have Isabella, Connie said quietly. Do we? Michael looked down at the terrified child in his arms. We just got her kidnapped. Got her caretaker killed. I got shot in front of her. This is what our world looks like, Connie. Violence and blood and choosing which ghosts to bury. Michael, she deserves better than this. Better than us. So what are you saying? Connie's voice shook. That we give her up? Send her away? Michael looked at his daughter, the child he'd just met, just saved, just bled for, and he realized the cruelest truth. Sometimes love means letting go. Sometimes being a father means making the choice that destroys you, but saves them. But could he? Could he save Isabella by pushing her away? Or would that just make her another ghost in a city full of them? Every story ends with a choice. Every choice creates a new story. Some circles never break. They just find new shapes. 3 days after the pier, Michael stood in a hospital room watching Isabella sleep. She was tiny in the bed, monitors beeping softly. A teddy bear tucked under her arm, a gift from a nurse who saw too much fear in those green eyes. The doctor said she'd be fine, physically. Emotionally? That would take time. Therapy. Safety. Things Michael wasn't sure he could provide. Connie sat beside the bed, holding Isabella's hand. She hadn't left since they'd brought her in. Hadn't slept. Just watched their daughter breathe like she might disappear if she looked away. "I talked to Father Dominic," Michael said quietly. "He knows a family in Ireland. Good people. Far from all this. They'd take her, raise her, keep her safe." Connie's head snapped up. "You want to send her away? I want her to live." Without looking over her shoulder. Without guards and safe houses and enemies who'll use her to get to us. Michael's voice cracked. "I want her to have what we never did. A normal life. She has parents who love her, and parents who almost got her killed." Michael's whisper was harsh. "Bianca found her once. She'll find her again, and next time we might not be fast enough, smart enough, lucky enough." He looked at Isabella. "I just met her, Connie, and I'd die for her. But dying for her isn't enough. I need to live for her, which means making impossible choices. Like giving her up? Like giving her a chance." Connie was crying now, silent tears tracking down her face. "I've already lost 4 years with you. Now you want me to lose her too? I want you to save her. There's a difference." The door opened. Vinny entered, expression grim. "Boss, we've got a problem." "What now?" "Detective Holt just got a warrant for your arrest. Seems someone dropped an anonymous tip about your involvement in illegal operations. Evidence attached." Vinny's jaw tightened. "It's the confession. Bianca's using it to frame you for your father's murder, claiming you killed him for control of the empire." Michael laughed bitterly. "Of course she is. Elegant move. If she can't kill me, she'll bury me legally." "What do we do?" "Nothing. Let him arrest me." "What?" Vinny and Connie said simultaneously. "Think about it. I will go away for a few years. Clean record, good lawyers. I'll do minimal time. Meanwhile, Connie takes Isabella somewhere safe. New identities, new lives. Away from all this." Michael looked at Connie. "Away from me." "Michael, no. It's the only way she's safe. The only way you're safe. Bianca wants me, not you. She wants the Stewart Empire, so I'll give it to her. Or let her think she's won, and you disappear. Again, but this time with Bella. Somewhere I can't find you. Somewhere nobody can. I'm not leaving you to rot in prison for something you didn't do. Better prison than death. Better alone than watching both of you die because I was too proud to walk away." Michael knelt beside the bed, level with Connie. "I love you. I never stopped. And I love that little girl even though I barely know her. Which is exactly why I'm doing this. Because love isn't possession. It's a sacrifice." Connie grabbed his face, forcing him to meet her eyes. "You're a stubborn, self-sacrificing idiot." "I learned from the best." He kissed her forehead. "Go, before Holt gets here. Take Bella and run. Don't tell me where. Don't contact me. Just live. Be happy. Tell her about me when she's older." "Tell her I tried." "Michael!" The door burst open. Detective Holt with 4 uniforms, guns drawn. Michael Stewart, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, racketeering, and... He stopped, seeing Isabella in the bed. Jesus, there's a kid here? She's asleep, Michael said quietly, standing with hands raised. Please, don't wake her. Holt hesitated, then nodded. The officers moved in carefully, cuffing Michael's wrists behind his back. Connie was frozen, tears streaming, one hand over her mouth to muffle sobs. As they led Michael out, he looked back one last time, memorizing the sight. His daughter sleeping peacefully, his wife broken but alive. The family he'd never have, the normal life that would never be his. I'm sorry, he mouthed to Connie. She shook her head. Don't be. 6 months later, Michael sat in the prison visiting room, hands folded on the metal table. Minimum security. His lawyers were good, the evidence circumstantial, the sentence light. 18 months, likely out in 12 for good behavior. He'd been inside for half a year already. Time moved differently here. Slower, quieter, almost peaceful in its monotony. The door opened. A guard gestured to someone in. Michael looked up, and his heart stopped. Connie. Older somehow, though it had only been months. Her hair was shorter, lighter. She wore jeans and a sweater, no makeup, no pearls. She looked free. She sat across from him, smiled sadly. Hello, Michael. You shouldn't be here. It's not safe. Bianca's dead. Michael blinked. What? 2 months ago. Car accident. Very tragic. Connie's smile turned sharp. Or very convenient. Turns out Father Dominic wasn't as helpless as he pretended. Had some old connections in the Vatican. People who owed favors. People who don't appreciate powerful women trying to frame their confessors for breaking sacred vows. Dominic killed Bianca. Had her killed. It made it look natural. And with her gone, the evidence against you fell apart. The DA's dropping charges next week. You'll be out soon. Connie leaned forward. And when you are, there's someone who wants to meet you. Connie. She pulled out her phone, turned it so he could see the screen. A video call. A little girl's face, older but unmistakable. Isabella. Hi, she said shyly, waving at the camera. Are you my daddy? Michael couldn't speak, couldn't breathe, just stared at that tiny face with his eyes, smiling nervously. Mama says you were fighting bad guys. Like a superhero. Is that true? Michael's voice cracked. I tried to be. I'm not sure I succeeded. Mama says you're brave, and you saved me from scary people. So I made you this. Isabella held up a drawing, stick figures labeled Mama, Daddy, and Bella holding hands under a rainbow. For when you come home. Home. Michael looked at Connie. I thought you were supposed to disappear, stay hidden. I tried. I lasted about 3 weeks in Ireland before I realized something. Connie's hand covered his through the plexiglass separator. You can't run from love, Michael. You can't hide from family. And Bella deserves to know her father. Not the mafia boss, not the legend. The man. Flawed and broken and trying to be better. I don't know how. Neither do I. But we'll figure it out. Together. As a family. She smiled. No more secrets. No more running. No more sacrifice. Just us. Messy and complicated and real. Daddy? Isabella's voice from the phone. Will you come home? Mama says yes, but I want to hear you say it. Michael looked at this daughter, this miracle, this second chance he didn't deserve, but would spend the rest of his life earning. "Yes," he whispered, "I'm coming home." 2 years later, the house on the coast was small, nothing like the penthouse, nothing like the mansion. Just 4 bedrooms, a garden, and a view of the ocean that turned gold at sunset. Michael stood on the porch, coffee in hand, watching Isabella chase seagulls on the beach. She was 6 now, laughing, fearless, no nightmares anymore, just a little girl who loved mermaids and dinosaurs and asking impossible questions about stars. Connie joined him, slipping under his arm. "She wants a puppy. Of course she does. I told her to ask you. Clever strategy." Michael kissed her temple. "What do you think?" "I think we've survived worse than a puppy." "Fair point." They'd left the city, sold the empire, or what was left after Bianca's death, collapsed the Moretti organization. Legitimate businesses only now. Boring stuff. Real estate, investments, nothing that required bloodshed. Vinny thought he'd lost his mind. Maybe he had. But every morning, Michael woke up to Isabella climbing into bed between them, asking for pancakes. Every evening, he read her stories about brave knights and clever princesses. Every night, he kissed Connie like it was the first time and the last time, grateful for second chances and impossible choices that somehow led them here. "Daddy!" Isabella called from the beach. "Look, I found a starfish. Bring it here, baby." She ran toward them, sandy and sunburned and absolutely perfect. Michael had been a lot of things: criminal, killer, king of an empire built on fear. But standing here, watching his daughter discover starfish while his wife laughed beside him, this was the role he'd been born for. This was where the story ended. Or maybe, just maybe, where it finally began.